In this demo, we're going to create a pipeline in ML Studio to show how the designer tool can be used to train a simple regression model. To do that, we're going to create a new pipeline through the designer, and then we'll add and configure certain modules to show a generic regression pipeline. First, we'll need to access the ML Studio from our browser. So what we want to do here is we want to author a new pipeline and play around with some modules to see how they could connect with each other. To do that, we need to access the Designer section from the left-hand menu. So let's do that. Now the Designer screen shows us a list of all the pipeline drafts that we already have. In fact, that's what the Designer is doing. It's giving us the ability to manipulate pipelines and how they run. So what we want to do here is we want to create our own new pipeline. And to do that, we can simply click on the giant plus button at the top of the screen. And this will bring us to a brand new pipeline. So let's do that. Perfect. So now we're in the designer. We have an empty canvas right in the middle, a list of modules that we can add from the asset menu on the left-hand side, and some configuration information about this pipeline on the right-hand side. In fact, the right-hand menu is asking us to select a compute target for this pipeline. So let's do that first. We can do that by clicking on the Select Compute Target link. So let's do that. Now in this pop-up, we're asked to select a compute cluster to use for our pipeline, and that's important. If we run this pipeline, it will add that run to an experiment, and all experiment runs need to be run using a compute cluster. So with this dialog, we can select an existing compute cluster, or we can create a new one. Now I'm going to select my existing compute cluster and click Save. And now using the same configuration panel, I'm going to name my pipeline something that makes sense. I'm going to call my pipeline SB Test Pipeline Demo. And then I'm going to click Save. Perfect. Now we're ready to go. So let's build a pipeline. But what do we want to build? Well, remember that one of the usual purposes for a pipeline is to train a model. So let's train a model. But what should we train it to do? Well, let's do something easy to wrap our heads around. To get us started, I'm going to add a dataset to the canvas, and then I'll explain what we're going to do with it. Under the Sample Datasets section on the left-hand Assets menu, I'm going to find the Automobile Price Data module and drag it onto the canvas. Okay, so this dataset includes a list of a whole bunch of cars. We could explore that dataset from the screen, but let's keep this simple and you can trust me that it's all in there. The dataset includes information about each car, so things like seats, engine size, mile per gallon, horsepower, and so on. Now what we want to do with this pipeline is we can create a supervised machine learning algorithm that uses that dataset to predict the price of a car based on the information it learns from this dataset. So let's do that. Let's bring in a model training module. To do that, expand the Model Training section, find the Train Model module, and drag it underneath the Dataset module. Now placement doesn't matter that much, but for readability, it's better underneath. Oh, and also leave a bit of room between the modules. Good. Now what we need to do is connect the dataset to the Model Trainer module. To do that, click on the output dot at the bottom of the dataset module and drag it down to the input dot on the right side of the Model Trainer module. The right input dot is the one used for datasets. Excellent. Now notice that the Model Training module has a warning symbol on it. Well, that's because we haven't told it what to train. So let's click on the module to select it. And now on the right-hand configuration panel, we can see that it wants us to select a column of data to train. So let's do that. Let's click on the Edit Column link above the Label Column field. Now remember that what we want to do is we want to have our model predict what the price of a car would be based on all the data in that dataset. So what we want to do here is select the Price column. So let's go ahead and do that by clicking on the field, scrolling to the bottom, choosing Price, and then clicking Save. Good. So now we have a data set and we're training a model to predict price. Well, yes, but actually no. Our model training now knows what to predict, but it doesn't know how to predict it. In order for the model trainer to predict a price, it needs an algorithm to run. So we need to add an algorithm module to the canvas now too. Predicting a numeric output based on other features of a dataset means that a regression algorithm is probably best. We'll keep it nice and simple and we'll add a linear regression algorithm. So let's go back to the modules list and expand the machine learning algorithms section, search for linear regression module, and add it to the canvas above the model trainer. Excellent. Now we can connect it to the model trainer by dragging its output dot to the left input dot of the model trainer module. And that's it. At this point, we have the world's simplest pipeline that takes a dataset about cars and runs it through a model trainer using a linear regression to predict the price of a car. Now we can run this pipeline by clicking on the Submit button at the top of the screen. But I wouldn't bother with that. In real life, the dataset needs to be cleansed and normalized using transformers. We'd also want to score our model so that we know how well it's doing. Then we could even do some model evaluation. And all of these activities can be done simply by dragging in more modules and connecting them all up, just like we've done here. Great job.